Today, Precarious plays
Phantom Brave.
Hey, Ash! He's got a flame birthmark on his face! Is that Scarlet the Brave?
I don't know if we're getting the full picture here.
You can't be serious.
There it is. That's the full picture.
Scarlet the Brains.
Okay, low resistance, low speed. There are a lot of them.
Seems very zombie-like.
Is that a... Oh, it's an evil rock.
Wild.
Wide?
Wide or wild? Wide. There would be an L in there if it was wild.
Does that mean there's a narrow evil rock?
It's... Gosh, every time we start playing this game, it puts me in a good mood with its silliness.
I want to know more about this evil rock. Like, I wonder if it has a Tinder profile. It just seems to be like a normal rock, though. Maybe it's just of a higher item class, like a higher tier. Except I thought it... I think that there are titles that are of various rarities or ranks, and then there are also items that ascend through a through a hierarchy as well. And they're not necessarily matched by default. So I suppose the thing to do
Let's go!
is just... Oops. Okay, that's fine. Not as good as it could have been, but still fine. Because what I need to do is I need to find something with high fire or ice. Not that one. No. Reduces intelligence, that's no good. Oh? Ah, there was a couple of tricky plants here.
Let's do it!
Or I could have just gone with the spirit tree.
He's very serious, though. I don't know if you saw.
Let's go!
Well, I mean, I try to never trust what I read until I've confirmed it for myself. I think that might have been a coincidence, but it seems to be pretty serious.
Double serious.
Okay, that was reasonable. Sometimes there's a weird thing about Disgaea-style games where if I'm not doing a murder in one action, one motion, it feels like I'm underperforming.
Oh.
But it really isn't the case if you're just playing the game normally. Like, that's not really true. Is Helio Shot, is that fire? I don't think that one is fire. Is the ground really slippery? Oh, no. Oh, it is slippery.
And pretty bouncy.
Great. Because the lack of precision is definitely what I want when I'm fighting the undead.
So, does this game eventually get to, like, ridiculous big numbers?
Yes. Absolutely.
How do you... How do you feel about silly huge numbers versus more simplified systems with fewer digits?
I will say, on that subject, just as an example, I think Disgaea NIS strategy titles would probably only be improved if they cut that thousandths digit off and only went up to level 999. Because it's all relative, and shit can just get weird. I mean, like, the most interesting thing about it is whenever you find methods to circumvent the numbers, which to me that doesn't feel like a good. I don't
What do
know.
you mean by that?
Okay, so there's a leveling trick you can do in this game with those rabbits from before, the ones that level up at the start of every turn.
Yeah.
You use Big Bang to circumvent their defenses, and even though they are, 10 times your level, there's still a method by which you can kill them. So that's a sort of an edge case, but finding stuff like that. Okay, here's another example. In Disgaea, you can throw enemies onto your base panel to try to capture them. What happens is they are pitted, I think in a sequence. It's just like a number crunch fight,
Yeah.
but they are pitted against everybody that is left in your base
Yeah.
in turn, and if they are defeated before your guys are defeated, you capture them permanently. If you fail, your base panel is destroyed for the map.
Oh, okay. I was gonna
So-
say what?
Yeah, you gotta be
For the map. That's an important.
careful.
Yeah. So.
That's a way. There's a way. I think it's at the Cave of Ordeals. There's a way to sort of catapult into the end game by capturing. I think it's a manticore. It's like a fiery lion
Great.
in that first Cave of Ordeals map, which is like a post-game bonus dungeon thing.
Yeah.
You can, if you get a few units that are somewhere in the hundreds, I think that there's a way to snare this unit, which I believe is in the thousands. Something like that, right? And then once you get one, then you can just get an army of them because you can use them to beat each other. They can beat each other up more easily.
I have always really liked smaller numbers when it comes to stats that then propagate like huge amounts of damage and stuff, so that the damage looks like confetti.
Oh, so like the difference between, let's say, like one of the original Final Fantasies where you started with 40 HP and every attack meant a lot, and then you can compare that to a modern Final Fantasy where, like, I think a lot of them usually start with like 100 being a number to care about, you know? Yeah, I get that. I understand that completely. I
'Cause
do.
I love big numbers for fun, but I hate working with them because at a certain point, I mean, you start. Once you get into a certain number of digits, you start rounding up or rounding down, and those other digits become useless. So it's just like being in a different category of play.
I will say that NIS titles, I think, have a numbers problem because they
Hey there.
demonstrate this visually. Because after a certain point, I think it just says K or M once you start dealing thousands or millions of damage. Like, it's just like 1K. You did 1,000
You
damage.
did 1K.
Yeah.
Probably more than that, but, you know, we're gonna round down because it was not like. It was lower than 1,400K, so we
I'm-
just ground off that digit.
I think that one of the big things to think about is context.
Mm-hmm.
I usually prefer ones or tens digits whenever I'm playing a tabletop game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't mind any number if I'm playing a computer game. And part of the reason why is because I've played enough big strategy titles, like big in scale, I mean. Endless Space comes to mind, right? Where you're working with planets and armadas, and it would be... I don't like... For that game, that's an example of the numbers going too small. I think that Civ has a problem where you can dig and find it in more recent Civilization games.
Mm-hmm.
But by default, what they show you, what they want you to see, and what they want you to acknowledge, it's like little population tick marks, right? Like a little silhouette of a person, or like a little happy face, or whatever it is, whatever they use in any given game to say, like, hey, this is a population unit.
Yeah.
I would prefer if it was like, there are several 100 million people here. Because that... Whenever you are about to... I don't know... What? Like...
Start a siege, or...
Well, I'm thinking, like... I can't remember the capital.
The capital?
If you're about to nuke Gandhi's capital...
New Delhi?
I mean, maybe now that would be appropriate. I'm trying to remember the specific starting one in Civ. Anyway,
I don't remember it either.
the point is, I would probably feel something emotional if I had to lay siege to a city with 10 million people, but I care a little less about a place that has 5 population
Units.
like
5 poos, 5 PUs.
yeah, five
poos live
of,
here.
of mans.
Yeah, 5 poos live here. It's fine. You're probably gonna get rid of 1 poo, and who even cared about that poo anyway?
You know, I'm gonna have to summon a fresh batch to take out what appears to be a pair of bosses, because they seem very statistically, ooh, that's a big number, comparable. I'll make my way down there probably by tomorrow. Yeah, this seems like a 24-hour kind of job to me. Go down a slippery slope.